hell?
You there, mate?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is close down your Facebook. All right. All right, and now you want to share your screen.
That one? Oh, you can't
Yep.
see my thing. So the big blue button. Oh, can you still see my computer?
I can see everything at the moment, mate,
Oh,
because
okay,
I'm using a different technology, remember?
Oh, you are too. All right, yeah. So share that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so are you sharing your screen? How exciting. All right. Well, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm sat here in Sydney watching like all these events unfold, and I'm eating toast. So I'm going to sit back and let Troy take over at this point. Just a quick note for everybody. Thanks ever so much for turning up for Troy's gig. Hope you guys all have fun and you learn some stuff. You've got on your screen a little blue icon, all right, with a little digital hand on there. I'm not sure if any of you have actually done webinars before. Some of you have, some of you haven't. But you've got a little blue hand, which is a hand raise. If you do that, if you've got a question, just click on that each time or tap it on your iPad, and that will then signal to Troy that you've got a question, all right? So you'll be muted throughout the entire thing just so the whole thing flows through. But if you do have a question, he will be able to see that by you raising your hand, by pressing the button, and then he can actually unmute just you so you can talk, and everyone can listen then, all right? What you'll probably have a question, chances are probably somebody else is thinking the same thing, right? So takeaway point, use that little blue icon for the hand raise if you have a question, all right? Sound like a plan? Why don't you all hit it now just to make sure that it works for you, just so we can see it light up on his screen. Margaret's there, Joshua's there, Kate's there. Margaret's actually taken herself off now, I see, right? Kate's taken it, right. Happy days, right? So everyone's got that. Now, as a special thing, right, we'll try it out. I usually get sort of, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But listen, for those people that didn't turn up today, we will try and record it, but there's no guarantees. So you guys got off your asses to do this. So I know that Troy's really grateful to you. I will now shut up, and I'm going to let Troy do everything. Mute me, Troy. Mute me. Just click on the mute all, I think there, mate, actually, to be fair. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. Hi, everyone. Thanks heaps for joining me here. This is a first for me, doing this webinar, and I'm actually at my home basically speaking to myself in the room, which feels a bit funny. So, look, I'm really stoked you're all here. The response I got was a lot more than what I thought. I didn't actually know what I was going to do when I put that little thing up on Facebook, but it got a bit of traction pretty quick. Nathan said quickly, put something together and, you know, help as many people as we can out here. So, yeah, so I've just put a little presentation together, which basically just gives a quick little sort of outline on how I sort of do my programming thing. So, my background is I've got my own personal training studio in South Yarra, which is in Melbourne. Let's Don't want that there. Yeah, so I've been working there for 7 years, I think. Owned it for the last 5. We do small group personal training in there, so it's not class stuff, but it's probably groups of 4 or 5 maximum. But everyone does their own program when they come in. So I think it works better than having 5 people do the same thing at once, where people get undertrained, people get overtrained, and it might fit one person in the middle. I don't like when trainers do that type of stuff. So I program everything, and I'm just a program nut, I suppose. So at the end, I've made up a product, I suppose, that will be for sale at the end of this. It's basically my training manual that I use for trainers in my studio. So when they come through, when I start a new trainer, there's a big manual that's 6 or 7, 8 modules. That's their base learning spot. So some stuff you'll have covered, some stuff you'll know, some stuff you won't have any idea. The whole point is just to sort of get some ideas in there. You'll interpret things different amongst each other, so it's just a matter of how you can implement them once you get them in your head. All right, so go to the second slide here. Okay, so what you'll go away with today is how to find a starting point for programming, especially for new clients. I'll probably focus on new clients because they're the ones that you want to make the best impression with straight away. Okay, so if you've got trial sessions or whatever you have for your initiation of new clients, that first impression you want to make it as big as you can, so they come on board and start paying you money. That's the whole idea. So we'll also go over how to prioritize what to train within a session. Okay, it's only we all work in timed blocks for our sessions, so you've got to have a plan. You can't just think, I want to do 10 things. Let's hope that I can get 10 things in half an hour or an hour. You've sort of got to know where the session is going to take you. We'll also go over what needs to be taken into account when developing a training template. I love templates. I think they're the best thing that you can have. If you can make them up to make them, it just makes your programming as efficient as you can possibly make it in delivering the session, and also the off time where you don't get paid for making up programs. You don't want to be spending 20 hours a week making up programs if you haven't got a system to use. So and I've got a few slides of just little tweaks that you can make to your programs that can have a pretty big influence on how the whole program flows, how the client can get better results from the program. Okay, I've got a hand here. So is that Kate had her hand up? Kate, can you hear me? No? Phil? Oh, wait on, what's happening here? Can people hear me out there? Can they respond to me? Oh, I can't work that out. All right. Okay, maybe Nathan will jump in there and help me with that one later. All right. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do, especially new clients, you've got to have an assessment in place. There's 1,000 ways to assess clients. There's a heap of postural screens and all that type of stuff you can use. So it's going to depend on what client base you've got. Not everyone needs to have a 45-minute posture screen. So your basic assessment is the first thing is going to be the client goals. All right, so they're coming to you with a problem and they want you to solve the problem. That's the number one thing. So whether it's fat loss or muscle building, or they just want to move better, or pain, or fitness, their goal is the most important thing. Okay. A lot of trainers get caught up in sort of what they want the client to do, but that's not what it is. So you go to the shop, you buy what you want to buy, not what the bloke next to you says you should buy. So so the client goals is first. From there, look, you need to cover your ass with injury risk. So you do need to learn some form of posture, movement, efficiency. The way that you're going to assess it. So, it's basically almost a coverage thing in case something happens. You just need to try and determine as many potential risk or dangers with a client as you can. So that includes asking them about past injuries, present injuries. You've got to ask these questions and ask them repeatedly in some cases. We have a past and present injury question on our pre-exercise questionnaire. Often people will put nothing in there, which is staggering because everyone's got something. I've got something. So you'll often have to go over that question again. If they leave it blank, ask it again, and ask it again, and ask it again. And their mindset's also something that needs to be taken into account with programming. So, this might take a session or two to determine, but you want to find out where clients are with, how hard they want to train, what do they expect to feel during the session, the day after the session, that type of thing. So, some people want to be sore, some people don't want to be sore. We've had clients not come back because trainers have made them too sore. They've gone, I want to go through this, so I'm not going to go back there. So you've got to judge their mindset as best you can, and match your programming up with that. So if they don't want to feel sore, you're not going to do 4,000 jump squats with them, that type of thing. So that's a pretty big one. Go to my next slide. All right, the assessment bit, needs versus wants. Okay, so the client's goals, the client's needs, their requests, whatever they're after, that's what their needs are. Their wants are things that you've identified with your assessment, or just how as a trainer, they're gonna need things that's going to help them get their wants. So if people want to run marathons, but they can't walk a flight of stairs, they can't go run marathons straight away. So you've got their wants in mind on the long-term programming, but the needs might be in the short-term programming. But you've got to tell them. You just got to tell them where you're taking them and how you're taking them there. So you say, okay, look, we want to run marathons. Okay, not a good idea to go out for a 20k run this Sunday. Let's try this stuff in this program here. Let's try and get you ready to run before you start running. All right. So just if you can explain as much as you can to clients, A, you'll come across as knowledgeable. B, you'll come across as being a good compassionate trainer because you've taken them into account, and they'll appreciate that. There's no doubt about it. Long-term planning. Okay. So people have different goal-setting programs. We have one that sort of focuses sort of on long-term, but then you make up various short-term goals to make it to the long-term goals. So I think most people do it like that. Ultimately, you want to work back from the main goal to where you are now. So if people, it's always good to put a timeline on goals if they can. This is going to come with the mindset thing. You'll get an idea of their mindset if someone says, I want to lose 10 kilograms in 10 weeks versus I want to lose 10 kilograms, and that's all they put. So if they put a timeline on it, their mindset is far different than the person who just said, I want to lose 10 kilograms and not put a time limit on it. They're probably more committed to the 10 kilogram in 10 week person. So that's going to affect your program. You'll be able to program a bit harder, for lack of a better term, than someone else you might have to go a bit softer on. It just take them longer to get there, that's all. But that's where the mindset bit comes in. So you work backwards from the goal, which will again incorporate the needs and wants from the previous slides. Do you need to go backwards to go forward? So that piggybacks on the wants and needs. Do they need to do we'll call it rehab or corrective exercise, even to get to a base level to start training hard enough to get to their goal? I found with a lot of my clients, work capacity is so low, it takes a month or two to get the work capacity up to be able to train hard enough to then start losing weight. And everyone's different is what they say, but there's science things that stand the test of time. In regards to training that we've all learnt through our courses and stuff like that. So, once again, just explain to them, okay, we've just got to go back a bit. Let's make sure we get everything right at the start before we go, gung-ho into this real hard stuff that you read in the paper or that your friend's doing with their PT or something. Okay, you've just let them know that you're taking care of them as best you can. Just had a little drink there. Okay, long-term planning. So I've put training frequency there. So that can, the most important session is probably the one they're doing with you. Well, not probably, it is. It's the most important session of their week. So whether they're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions with you, however many they're doing on their own, you've got control over the sessions that you deliver. Okay, so you can set programs for them to do outside of the program, but once you've given them the program, your control is gone. So you don't know if you're going to do all that you want to do, half, some, none. Are they going to do it the right way? So the training frequency, you'll start with the sessions that you run with them. So if that's one session a week, that's the most important session. Okay, and you want to get the greatest training effect in the shortest amount of time. So if people aren't going to lose 10 kilograms by training once a week, but to get them to a position to be able to train on their own efficiently and effectively, your session needs to be a banger. Okay, so you need to educate them and get them a training result in the one session that you have a week. It's not a lot of time. And if they're honest with themselves, a client, they'll realise that one session's not enough. But it means that the long-term planning is going to be longer. So your progressions will be longer. It's going to take longer to get to certain baselines to move forward. So definitely take that into account. And then so you'd base their sessions around your main session. So you start with your session, and then if you have to give them 2 other sessions or whatever when they go to a gym on their own, you get the most important stuff in your session, and then the other stuff that they can hopefully do on their own, put them in the other session. So if you're doing power cleans or something, real technical like that, that has to go in your session, not in a session on their own. It might make for the perfect training program. It might have to double up on some things. You might have to train chest twice in a row or something, but the most important stuff that's going to get the best result should go in your session, okay? It also gives you a bit more, makes you more important, I suppose, as well, because they need you to do that session. All right, so I'm just going to go through some sort of some sort of portions of sessions that you'll have. So everyone's got a warm up. What you have in your warm up, there's no rules as to what should go in, what should go out. A lot of people do some foam rolling, tennis ball, sort of self-massage stuff, myofascial release. So you can put that in there. There's people do a lot of sort of mobility and stability work in their warm-up. You might put that in your session. It depends how you want to, where the client is. If a client's not real fit, then their warm-up might be their session. So, lunges can be pretty hard, and there's a heap of sort of walking lunge type dynamic flexibility exercises that people might put at the start of a session in their warm-up. Lunges can be hard for people who haven't done them and are deconditioned. You know, so the warm-up could blow them up. It could be 10 minutes into your session and they're already done. So that goes with gauging the client through your assessment. You might put some breathing pattern stuff in there if people are on the breathing stuff that's come out in the last few years. I do a fair bit of that with my clients. I might do another thing on that later if people want to know about it. Movement preparation. If you've got any rehabilitation stuff, that should go in your warm-up as well. Do that first. That's most important, that they stay injury-free or they're working on their injuries. If they've got rehab stuff from a chiro or a physio or whoever, do it in your session as well. Make sure they do it first. That's the most important thing, that they get healthy, they get better. We all have clients that say, you know, I'll do this at home, I'll do this, and then you ask them, oh, you know, I didn't do it last night, I did it 2 nights ago. At least they're getting it done that day in your session. Okay, so once again, that's that, you know, prioritize what you've got to put in this session, which comes up a bit later. If they've got their own weak spots that you're just giving recommendations on, if their glutes are so weak that they can't descend into a squat without trying to fall backwards, you know, you might put some glute stuff in as a rehab, as an activation type point in the warm-up. Okay, so the next sort of portion is a strength training portion. So within there I put, you know, power work, strength work, hypertrophy work, and some metabolic type work. As you work down that list there of 4, it gets sort of further away from traditional strength training. So that's probably all you want to go in. So sort of the faster and more technical a movement is, the earlier in the workout you want to place it. So we don't want to get all CrossFit and start doing, you know, 20 rep sets of cleans, you know, 20 minutes into a session or anything like that. You know, leave that to CrossFit. That's not what personal trainers do. I've just put cardio training there, which is a crappy term, but everyone knows what it is. So that can overlap a bit with the strength training bit. So your hypertrophy stuff might go in there, metabolic stuff, and your energy system training. So, look, your hypertrophy stuff would fit in there. If you're doing the old school 10 sets of 10 with 1 minute rest, you know, that's hypertrophy building parameters, but it's also going to get your heart rate up quite high as well. So that would go in your cardio training. You might not even need any energy system training if you're doing something like that. You know, it's not a great program, but I don't know, we can talk about that later, I suppose. All right, and then your warm down. So your warm down might just be similar to your warm up. You know, you might do stuff that you do in the warm up that you don't do in the warm down, and vice versa. So you might want to do your foam rolling at the end and some extra mobility stretching stuff at the end. You know, it depends where you want to put it. There's any major studies done that's shown that rolling done at the start or the end is going to be any better. They both provide different things where you do them, depending where you do them. So I've got massage in there. If you do one-on-one clients, look, a little 5-minute massage will go a long way. Clients love just a little shoulder massage, even if you don't even know how to do it. Just give it a little rub and make them feel nice, make them feel good. We do partner stretching as well in of our sessions, so you want to end on a sort of personal note, I suppose. So more so than just finishing up and saying, you know, out the door, I'll see you later. You know, we give them a little, you know, a couple of hip stretches and maybe a bit of a massage or something, whatever they need. So don't be afraid to get in and handle your clients a bit. Builds a bit of closer relationship, I think. Session templates. All right. So they're very time efficient. I said before, I love templates. I try and template as much as I can, especially with my clients. You know, I've got, you know, 30 or 40 clients I'm programming for at one time. So, you know, to keep that many programs running, you know, you can't just have. It makes it hard to individualize all these programs, let alone if they've got different setups. You're trying to think who's doing this, who's doing that. And what you can basically do is just plug your exercises in as they need to come in and other ones need to go out. So in one of the modules in the product is is a whole exercise progression. So there might be 12 single leg exercises we go through. You just plug that into your template. Once you got up to a level where you need to change it, take that out, put the next one in. Take it out, put the next one in. Eventually you'll get to know what the progressions are. So when you're updating your programs, it's just simple. I've got a walking lunge now. What comes next? A dynamic lunge. All right, off we go. And you just pop it straight in. So it sort of minimises your thinking a little bit. You're still giving a solid program, and people will sort of end up doing the same thing, but people will just progress at different rates. So some people might, progress 2 reps a session. Some might progress 1 rep. Some might start at 8 reps. Some might start at 5. Depends where they start. Some people might do an exercise for 5 weeks before they move to a different one. Some people might do 2 or 3 weeks. How to develop a session templates. That's spelt wrong. Let's fix that up. Okay, so divide the session into blocks of time. So I've based this on an hour. I do hour sessions in my studio. So assign training qualities to each block. All right. So we went through sort of the different bits before with the warm up, the strength training, and the cardio bit. Give them time blocks and stick with them as much as you can. All right. So that's going to limit how fancy you can get. I'm in Australia, so we play Aussie rules football over here, and I was talking to one of the strength and conditioning coaches for one of the junior teams, and the AFL teams get very fancy with their technology, and he says, the more fancy stuff I use, the more simpler I seem to be making my programming. So it'll keep your training efficient, which means you're not putting in any useless volume just to fill in time. You're filling your blocks to get the efficient training in as little time as you can. Okay, so you want to try and train each sort of portion in every session, so it's going to make you real efficient with what you choose to do. Okay, so there's a little what an hour might look like. 5 to 10 minute warm up. So that includes all that stuff we put in the slide before. So your breathing and your movement and your foam rolling and stuff like that. So you got to get people moving a bit, because that can chew up a fair bit of time if you get too far into it. Strength training 20 minutes. So again, it depends what you want to put in. Do you just want to do traditional strength, low rep work in there? Did you want to do power and strength? Did you want to do strength and hypertrophy? You probably can't fit everything in there. So you've got to find out what's going to do the best thing for my client. Do they need to get stronger? Do they need to get more powerful? Do they need to get bigger? Which one's going to get them to their goal quicker? Okay, so you might only do 1, you might do 2. You'd probably struggle to get 3 in there. The energy systems work. In a training session, you shouldn't have anyone running on their treadmill for 20 minutes if they're paying you a good hourly rate. They can do that in their own time or after the session if it's a big chain gym. So again, that can incorporate your hypertrophy work, some other metabolic stuff, body weight exercises in the circuit, sort of that, ropes and sledgehammers, whatever you've got at your disposal. So they might overlap a bit. So you might do strength training for 15 minutes and your energy systems for a bit longer, or you might make your strength training a bit longer and your energy system shorter. That's just a sample I've just put there. So you're just condensing your session down, and then your warm down is 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, depends what you want to do. The back end of your energy systems work might go into your warm up a little bit. That's fine. It's just a sample there. What to train, when, and how much. Okay, so another one of the modules in the PT manual is breaking your exercise into movement categories. I think probably most people would do everyone would do that to a certain degree. Some people still might do the muscle categories, which I haven't done that. I don't think I've ever done that ever since I've been working actually as a PT gym instructor. When I started out, I'd moved on from that before then. I like movements better. It makes more sense from a programming point of view. There's a module on exercise progressions that I touched on before. So you've got your movement categories. I think we've got 9 of those. I think I've got 9 of those. And then there's progressions of exercises for each movement category. And then there's a volume progression. So where I start them off, do I start them at 5 reps, 8 reps? What's my progression from there? What's the top end of that? We don't just keep adding 2 reps until we get to 300 reps or anything. So we might just get to a certain point for the training effect that they want. And then I'll bring a new exercise in, we'll work back up, bring it in, work it up. So that's the progression. You can have your idea of what progression you want to use, but ultimately the client will dictate what progression you'll need to use. And you might use different progressions for different exercises with the same client. They might be real good at step-ups, but they're not real good at, chin-ups, which is probably most cases. So you got to progress them a bit slower and a bit different than the other ones. So training frequency again will get taken into account. If they're training once a week versus 4 times a week, you can obviously train more things in the 4 times a week. You can train more of those categories. I often see programs of trainers trying to fit a lot of stuff into one session. Makes things a bit cramped. I'll touch on it later, but you don't have to train everything. So, and client compliance as well. So, even though you're there, clients will not always hit the marker that you set for them for that session. You might say, I want you to do 8 chin-ups. They might have had, 3 hours sleep. They had their kids up all night. They might just have it in them that day. So, you've sort of got to switch your sort of progression or what you're going to do that day sometimes to fit the client, so their compliance within your sessions, and again with the sessions that you've given them to do outside of your sessions. Have they done what you plan to do? If you've made the program up, then you mightn't have trained something in your session because you're expecting them to train them in their other sessions. If they don't go to those other sessions, then they may have missed something that's still rather important that you just haven't been able to fit in your session. So compliance will also dictate what to train when and how much you're going to train something. Okay, so just back to the movement categories bit. I've just put a few of the popular ones there, popular splits that people use. So push, pull, upper, lower, horizontal, vertical, push and pull. I'm not sure how people are with horizontal and vertical planes of movement. Like I said, I've got 9 that I go by. What have I got? I've got horizontal push pull, vertical push pull. I've got squat. I've got hips. I've got core. I've got upper back. I've got single leg as a category. Have I missed one there? I think that's 8 or 9. So that's all my categories, and then I've got all the exercises in each category and a progression for each, and how many reps I sort of want people to get up to. So it's an all-encompassing. It's all written there. So once you sort of learn that, a program that you write at the start will just keep flowing and flowing and flowing. So you won't have to just sit down every 3 weeks and make up a new 4-weeker. You just add on to the program where it is. So 2 exercises might have a 5-week lifespan, and 3 might have a 3-week. You just add the next one in when it comes in. Or you might have a 4-week plan for chin-ups, and they might only get to the 3rd week, and they can't even get the 3rd week completed. So there's no point doing the 4th week. You'd move to the next part of that sort of movement pattern, wherever you want to go with it. All right, so exercise progression. Generally, you want to go heavy to light. So I think I mentioned it before with your exercises, but probably relative to the clients. If an exercise is very hard for them, even though it might only be body weight, it might be a step up or a split squat, for instance. Some solid people, clients will find them very hard, and even though they might do squats with weights, it might actually be physically harder to do the single leg exercise. So that would go before the squats, even though it's heavier in external load. But if you added up the relative load of the body into a split squat on one leg, you'd probably find that would be more than whatever they're squatting anyway. So you want to put them at the start because they're not going to be able to pull that move off when they're already tired. They're not going to do it how you want them to do it to get the most out of it. So heavy to light, easy to hard. They're sort of the same thing, but they can be different, as I just said. So stable to unstable. When I say unstable, I don't mean, squatting on 5 Swiss balls, juggling cats or anything like that. You've got to, you've got to be good on 4 points of contact, say with a push-up or a prone position before you start, doing one-arm push-ups. Some trainers who don't have a system, they like to try and impress their clients with saying, okay, let's try and do this, even though they're way off even attempting it. The client's not really going to care what exercises they do. They just want the training effect or the result that they're after. Unless they say, I specifically want to do this exercise, that would be the only way that I'd put something in ahead of the progression. I'm not above doing that. If the client wants it, that's what they want. So as long as I get a bit of mine and a bit of theirs, then we're happy. And supported to non-supported, so that sort of generally refers to single leg exercises. So 2 legs on the ground before you take 1 leg off the ground, sort of things like that. Okay, last few slides. I've just got a little things that make a huge difference in trying to set up your program. So I'll touch on it before. So you don't have to train everything in a session. So you don't need a squat, and a deadlift, and a bench press, and a shoulder press, and a pull down, and something for the core, and then you don't need a bicep, you don't need a tricep, you don't need a calf, you don't need to train everything all the time. And it'll just make a shitstorm with your session. It'll probably mean you won't be training enough volume on any of the given exercises, therefore the client doesn't actually get very good at the exercise to make a good long-term difference. So to get good at something, you've got to practice it. But if you're only doing 2 sets a week on it, it's not going to be enough. Another drink there. So, like I said before, you've got to prioritise what needs to be covered. And in the manual, I've got what I would train with people who are once a week. Well, I don't train everything. I choose certain things that I'll want to train. Sort of posturally to get them where I need them to go further. So, research different training styles. Training style is not really the word I wanted, but different ways to train. So you don't want to get locked into one thing. So bodybuilding personal trainers will try and have all of their clients bodybuild, and they'll do chest days and arm days and leg days and shoulder days and whatever other days they do. My gripe with the bodybuilding split is, legs are the most important day, but most blokes don't want to do them. So they might put that on a Friday, and then they'll often miss the Friday because they're going to go out and have some drinkies after work, and the legs will never get trained. And this is, you've lost control of your client's program already when they're only doing one body part with you, and then you're expecting them to do other body parts on their own. So be adaptable with how you're going to, so you can still keep your bodybuilding stuff in, but you've got to learn, how do I train for strength? How do I train for fat loss? How do I train someone who just wants to move better? How do I train someone who just wants to get rid of some pain? You can't just have one style. And I think now that with the abundance of health and fitness and training sites on the internet, I think more people are getting better at training in different styles within the one session, which is good. Backing off that, don't make your style or your program fit the client. Okay, so if you've got a 60-year-old golfer coming in, he's probably not going to want to do 3 different chest exercises. This is why you've got to have different styles in your kit bag. So if a client comes in with a different goal than what your normal or your base client base are often going for, you still got to be able to train them. So don't just hammer them into the style that you want them to go into. So that they might like a different style, and that they might train better if you give them a different type of setup. So you've got to be adaptable with that. And that will come with researching different styles. You sort of know, I've got this type of client, he's similar to this other lady client I've got, I give her this sort of type of template, and you might try that with him, and that might work better than what you try with, your 20-year-old footy player. So, you just got to just throw your template around a little bit. I went over that before. All of the exercises from most technical to least technical relative to the client. So, I went over that. I won't touch that on again. So some exercises fit certain sets and reps better than others. This is a big one. So if you go to a muscle and fitness bloody magazine, they'll have a program and everything's 3 sets of 12, and trainers still throw that out. I see people on social media, I'm doing this program, can someone have a look at it for me? And everything's 3 sets of 12. Even though they're meant to be building strength or something. So, deadlifts don't fit 12 reps. I mean, if you can't do 3 good, safe reps, you're not going to do 12 good, safe ones. You'll be on the floor by the 5th rep. So, there'll be some exercises I won't go over 6 reps, some I won't go over 8. Some I'll go up to 20, 30, like conditioning exercises I'll go up to high, but they're self-taught exercises. They can't injure anyone. Even if they don't do it 100% correctly, they're not going to hurt themselves. But with deadlifts and heavy squats and even sort of bench presses, you've got to give us a rep range that fits the exercise properly, and what the training result you're trying to get out of it. So if you're training for strength, you shouldn't be doing 12 rep sets. That's not how. You're only going to get 2 or 3 weeks out of that anyway before you can't lift anymore for 12 reps. And plus, you're looking at burnout and stuff like that if you're lifting to failure for 12 reps too much with a big, heavy exercise. Okay. So I bunch exercises in pairs or triples or quadruples. So, again, it will depend on the client. Some clients work best if I just do 2 exercises. Some don't like to think too much. So you don't want to give them 5 exercises. So you go and do that while I'm over here looking after Betty. Just give them 2 exercises. It might be a hard one and then a sort of easy one. Triples, you might have 2 hards and an easy, or an easy, medium, hard, or something like that. So they're not super set, so I don't expect them to go from one to the other, one to the other. Like, that's not a circuit where you just do it all in a row. You can take breaks in between exercises. It just means that they're not having 2 minutes rest while they stand around and do nothing. So instead of having 2 minutes rest doing nothing, they can have 1 minute rest, do an exercise, have another minute rest, come back to the first exercise where now they've had 3 or 4 minutes between that exercise. Their strength will be recovered better. Systemically, they've kept their heart rate up because they've gone to another exercise instead of just walking around or sitting down having a drink. It keeps them moving more because you've only got an hour, so you want to get the biggest training effect you can, but not turn it into you're too buggered to do anything after the 20-minute mark. And the way that you set up those pairs in triples or quadruples is very important too. You don't want to put power cleans, chin-ups, and heavy bench presses in one sort of tri-set or whatever you want to call it, because it's something that's not going to get the fresh training that it needs. So if your chin-ups are third, they're not going to get as many reps as you would if you just did them on their own with an easier exercise in between. Whoops. Get your exercise sequencing correct. So I'm just touching on those, on how you put your pairs, triples, and quadruples together. So if you've got deadlifts and chin-ups and bent rows, for instance, and you want to put them in a triple, what you're going to find is that if you look at those three exercises, there's one thing that they all share in common, and that's the requirement of grip strength. So, what's going to happen come the third or fourth set of that? Your deadlifts are going to start giving out. You'll get less chin-ups because your hands are giving out. Your bent rows will be probably rubbish because you can barely hold onto the bar. So, you've got to choose non-competing exercises. Whether you do pairs, triples, or quadruples. Non-competing, get them as far away from each other as you can in regards to what gets used. Excuse me. What muscles get used, what movements get used, and then match that up with what's going to come later in the session as well. So you don't need to do a deadlift and then a good morning and then we're not powerlifters here, so once you hit a movement pattern once, that's all you'll need to do for that session. We're training general population clients here, so get the most from the least is what we're after. All right, compensation patterns. This is a whole module on compensation patterns. Giant spreadsheet. Took me bloody hours to make up when I first did it. Determining compensation patterns during exercises. Why do they do it? What you can do to fix it. Very important. That's what's going to keep people from getting injured. As you go through the program and it gets harder and harder, you want to knock those compensation patterns out as soon as you can and get them learning the right way to do it. Some people, their posture or the way that they move might just automatically put them in a position that makes an exercise look wrong. You've got to teach them a new way, essentially, for that, or give them the right coaching cue, which is the next point, that they will click on and go, hey, I know what he's talking about when he says that, so now I can implement it in this exercise. So it's a compensation pattern. So like with a push-up, you've got, the alignment goes awry. So, your hips might be sagging down the ground. You need to know why are they doing that. You can just say it's week this, week that, but have you tested that? You've got to sort of find out why this is happening, and then you need to be able to quickly, in 10 seconds, we have a 10-second teaching rule in my studio. You've got to quickly be able to say something or do something that corrects that. You don't want to take them away and say, okay, let's do a push-up, and it takes 5 minutes to show them how to do one exercise. You don't want to do that, especially if you're in a group setting. But you still want to correct them. You don't just want to let them go on doing bad push-ups because you'll try and teach them a correct push-up one day and their body will not be able to do it. There is a whole module on that. That's huge. I could talk about that all day with exercises, but I won't today. All right, what I'm going to do now, I had someone email me one of their programs. This is actually a pretty good program, so I might be able to find too much out of this. I thought I might try and improve it for him, but I might be able to. So, okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at his splits. So he's got day one, chest and arms. Just got legs. Shoulders and traps, I suppose, if you want. Deadlift and back. Okay, so this is sort of it's almost a push-pull sort of type of setup. This is a bit different. So you can set it, the way he set it up, he's basically got a bench press day, a squat day, just a shoulder day, and then a deadlift day. It's not the worst that I've seen. He's got different things put out here. He's got different rep raises, which is good. You don't want to do the same thing all the time. All right, so let's have a look. Okay, now the one thing with these back days, let's have a look how many grip exercises there is. Deadlift, yes. Cable row, sort of. Single arm dumbbell row, yes. Pull down, yes. Oh, that's a straight arm pull down, so that's all right. Lat pull down, yes. And then pull-ups are at the end. So what I would suggest there, I wouldn't quite have a day that has all these in one day. For starters, there's a bit of double up with the exercises. So he's got a cable row and a single arm row, pretty much training the same thing. And he's got 2 pull downs there. It's sort of a bit different, but he's got pull downs and pull ups. So I'd say that pull ups are way harder than pull downs. I would have them. Well, I'd have them first or second in a session if I had people doing pull-ups / chin-ups. They're always first or second. But we do sort of full body. I do full body sessions all the time. So whether you train 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row, as some people have done in the past, you'll always do full body. So that's just on that day. So it's just a matter of how we put the order of the exercises. So let's have a look at another day here. Okay, so this day is a bit. Okay, so there's lots of presses. Okay, a snatch grip shrug. It's an Olympic lift. It's a lot more technique dependent than any of these other exercises, which are quite easy exercise in relation to the technicality. I will definitely put that first. Even if it is for sets of 25. That would be an even bigger reason to put that first. Yeah, because then the technicality factor goes even higher, because now you want sets of 25 with an Olympic lift. Maximum rest of 45 seconds. All right, leg day. All right, we've got a fair bit of squatting going on here. Okay, we've got cleans, which is an Olympic lift, even after squat day. I'm not really sure of the intensity of the cleans, because it's a technical movement. I'd want to put that first. It's training a bit of the squat pattern, so it's also good to use Olympic lifts as a warm-up, because of the speed of the movement will activate your nervous system. So once you go to these squats, you feel a bit more explosive. So I'd definitely put them first. It depends on which of these squats is heavier or not. Back squats are generally heavier than front squats, and he's going up to 90% there, so I'd put that in second. I'll put the front squats in third if I had to keep that in. I'd only do 1 squat for the day, though. I wouldn't do 2 squats, especially when you've got lunges as well on the other side. And then there's some more high rep squats and leg presses after that. So do you need both of those, or are those sort of redundant? Like I said before, if you do your time blocks, you're not sort of thinking, what else do I need to fill in this time? Do I need, I don't need to just put some leg presses in just, for the sake of it. You've got to sort of be able to justify everything that you put in. Bench press. All right, we've got 2 lots of bench press here. So I think that's a cluster there. I think he's got happening there. So once he's done a cluster here, if that's not a warm-up, do we need more 90% work? Maybe not. 2 lots of flies. I mean, that's a big day right there. Do you need 2 lots of curls? Do you need both of them to be 3 sets of 8? Do you want one to be 2 sets of 6 or one to be 3 sets of 15 or something like that? You got to change. Don't just do 2 exercises with the same stimulus. Okay, so there's just some quick changes that we can make just on the programming side that would make it more effective, the program just in general. If you've got programs like this you want me to have a look at, I could send them to me. I can have a look at them and or you can put your changes in, tell me what you've done, put them in red or something, and I'll say, yep, I can correct them, and sort of like a test, I suppose, if you want to test yourself out with the stuff that you've seen today. Okay. So that's what I've got today. That took a lot longer than half an hour, didn't it? I'll open up the floor here for questions. If I can work this out. If Nathan can hear me, can he help me out with this? Alright, where's... I can't read it. Okay, so what you can do, there's a question button. You can just press on the question button, on the plus button, and if you've got a question, just type it in the box, and I'll be able to answer any questions that anyone has. I can't work out the mute thing, so... Alright, Phil, I think I've got you off mute.
Yeah, hi Troy, you got me?
Ah, there we are. Yes, Phil. Got
so
it.
busy fighting with a 2-year-old at the minute.
Ah, no, I've got my 4-year-old out of the house before this started, so I know where you're at. Yep,
you just woke up right at the wrong time.
Yes.
Thanks for the feedback, mate.
No, not a problem. No, it's not a bad program in the end. I was hoping I'd get a disaster, but I didn't get one. So, but yeah, have you got any other questions on that?
No, it was good. It was an interesting character actually. The guy we were training in question was quite a young lad, really strong in bench, really strong in pull-ups, couldn't squat.
Oh yeah.
Really, typically, tight hamstrings, just couldn't move at all, really. So it was a bit of a weird one, to be honest. But yeah, it's always fun when you get somebody like that.
Oh, I didn't.
But no, some great stuff on the presentation, mate. Thanks for that.
Oh, beautiful. No worries. Thanks, mate.
As you say, I think sometimes it's just good to hear how people approach, with a new client, because I guess in many cases your base start depends on what they can and can't do, and and what they want from it. So it's
exactly.
So as you say, it's awesome.
Yeah, well, you can't start them somewhere where what they can't do. They get discouraged. They've only just started. They're sort of just come out of their shell anyway. So you've got to be able to quickly assess where they're at, and then give them something they can do and feel like they've achieved something. It's not all about what we want to do.
When you're looking at clients yourself, let's say you've got somebody who's new in. Do you sort of how do you look at their progression? Do you look at it say on a weekly or monthly basis, or do you kind of break it into sections? So once they've achieved, you feel like a certain level of efficiency or ability, then did you kind of bump them up again from there?
Yeah, so
Does that make sense?
I've got a session, my base session that I run. All right, so and with all of those exercises, there's a regression for each exercise. So if they can't do the easy exercise, I can say, okay, let's do this one. So I can just quickly move to the next instead of going, oh, okay, you can't do push-ups. What will we do? You don't want that time where they're going, what's this bloke, doesn't know what he's doing. So I already know if I can move forward, I can do that. If I have to move back, I can do that. And if they just want a general sort of fitness, which is what people say, I want to get fit and tone up. They don't need to be doing 30 reps of this and or 2 reps of that where it's real heavy, isn't it? They can just stay in at a 6 to 12 rep range or 15. So I might just work up over 3 or 4 weeks, get to 15, go to a new level, go back to 8, work back up, go back down, and just work through. And then once you work through all the progressions, it'd be 12 months of training anyway, and they'll be right where you want to be. They can do whatever they want after that, because they'll be so competent in all the exercises you've given them. Any level of movement that they need to do, they won't just be good at squats but no good at lunges. They'll be good at everything. And they'll never get hurt, which is the main thing. They'll never get hurt. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, if thinking about guys that might be sort of brand new to sort of the training field, thank you. Do you have sort of half a dozen exercises that are kind of your go-to ones for for new people? So, for example, you get somebody into a new client in, and you pretty much, there's kind of like for me, for example, I'll always try and teach squat, deadlift, pull up, or aim to get to that point, and bench, because they're kind of my 4 key exercises.
Yeah, and
That makes sense.
so if you're training sort of young athlete sort of type of things, where my starting point with general clients, I train athletes completely different than what I train my general clients. The principles are still the same, so I've still got progressions and where they start and exercise progressions, and I'll work through them. And even how I train my athletes, I still play sport now at 36 and a half, and I train a lot different than what I train my athlete clients, because I've got all the control on my program. I know what I'm going to do, recovery and all that type of stuff. So I've still got a starting point. The starting point's pretty easy. You want to start unders. You don't want something to be hard in the first session, because if it's already hard, you don't just get better at things that are hard. It just gets harder, and you don't get better. So you got to go. That's why I said you have to take a step backwards to go forward. If they can't do pull-ups, what do I need to do? Do I need to go back to isometrics or even lat pull-downs and just teach retraction and depression? Are they that weak in those muscles? I just need to hammer that, and almost like bodybuilding isolation sort of fashion, just to get those muscles to know that they've got to do some work, that type of thing. So, it's good. You have your starting point, but you've got to be flexible with your starting point as well, for sure.
When you train, if you're training sort of, as you say, if you've got a small group of 4 or 5, you tend to make sure you'll have people of all sort of similar goal. You want people sort of different goals, trying to all train together, or do you do that?
No. So I've got 40 or 50 clients, and they move around a lot. So I've got work, I've got a meeting, I've got a change. So I can't just say, okay, can you only do this time because I've got 3 other fat loss people. So they've got their own program. I've taught them correctly from the outset, which is the most important thing. So they know. I can just say with that push-up, I can give 2 cues in 5 seconds. Squeeze your bum, keep your elbows in. I know exactly what I'm talking about. That goes back to teaching the right thing from the outset. That's the only thing that they know.
Yeah.
So if they haven't been taught a proper push-up and you tell them 2 things, they'll just remember those 2 things. And if they do them every time, and keep an eye on everyone, so you sort of know the exit. So if someone's got a deadlift and someone's doing, a mountain climb or something, you don't have to look at the mountain climber person, because you're not going to hurt yourself. It's just self-taught. Look at the deadlift person.
Yeah, true.
You sort of set things up like that. You know where to go, what to look at, that type of thing. It can get a bit hectic, but you get used to be able to run people through everything pretty quickly. All right.
No, brilliant, mate. No, thanks for that. I mean, I've got nothing else to sort of throw in the mix, if you like.
No, that's all right. I've got
So I don't know if anyone else has got questions. Everyone's been a bit quiet.
I think Kate's got one now. I tried to get to Kate before, but I couldn't get to her. All right, so I'll just put you on mute again, Phil. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Cheers, man.
All right. I'll work my way to Kate. Let me try and get this happening. Oh, where'd she go? Kate, have I got you?
No, I'm still here.
I can hear you now though. How are you?
Oh, hi. I'm all right, thank you very much.
That's
I found
good.
that very, very interesting, thanks, Troy.
No
First
worries.
time I've actually been on a webinar. Quite weird.
Yeah, no, I haven't even been on one. I'm trying to run one. It's ridiculous.
Oh my goodness, no! I think I'm going to leave that one for quite a while. I'm quite a new trainer, really. In the last 2 years, I opened a small studio,
Yep.
and so this programming's really, really interesting to see because I still tend to use pen and paper, to be quite frank, because I'm not training masses.
Yeah.
And I actually find that works quite well, but having been on now the Facebook groups and things like that, you can see where coming and listening to you guys and the experts, may I say, are very, very good actually, really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And has made me think a little bit more about using more programming.
Yeah, and that's, and especially when you get trainers in, that's when the template works the best.
Yes.
You know, because whether you want to do all the programming,
Yeah.
you know, if you've got 3 trainers or something, you know, you're going to be doing 50, 60 programs. You don't want to be, you know, what can I do here? What can I do here? It's already, the decision's already made. You've got the system in place. You go, okay, they did this exercise. This is the next one. They plug it in. And it's sort of, you can teach your trainers how to use that as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got, because you want to keep control. It's your studio. You don't want a rogue trainer coming in doing stuff you don't want done in the studio, which can happen when you know, don't have a system in place.
I mean, you guys are working with quite a lot of clients in big studios. Mine's literally tiny, and it's 1-to-1, 1-to-2, and so predominantly I am the only trainer there. But you're right, there will be times where I need to get other trainers in. So I think perhaps having a system in place would be quite good, or even if it's a small one in comparison to perhaps, you know, the 60 that you were saying earlier on. But yeah, I think that's probably now it's given me a bit more of an idea of particularly seeing, sorry, I'm not sure of the other guy's name that you had on, but the other guy's program looked pretty good as well.
Phil, yeah, that was quite a good one. I couldn't pick it apart too much. I had to get real picky, but you know, you see some real bad, even on the internet there's some shocking ones that just have no thought put in them at all. But yeah, and especially even if it's only small, it's still, you know, because that means you're running your own business, so you've got all your other business stuff to do. You don't want to spend 30 hours doing programs when you've got another 30 hours of accounts and all that stuff, and I know what that feels like as well. So it's, you know, efficiency. I'm all about efficiency in everything I do. So yeah, the template, you just roll it through.
And what do you use then? Do you use something like...
Oh, I lost you there. Say it again.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, no, I'm here. So do you use Excel as well then?
I still missed that. Say it again. One more time.
Sorry, do you... My voice is going, actually. I don't normally sound like this.
Bit rusty.
Do you use Excel as... I know it's not bad. It sounds a bit groggy. It's terrible. Do you use Excel then as well?
No, you can still use the pen and paper, but it's just knowing that where the next exercise is coming from and what it's going to be, instead of having to think, what have they done the last 4 times? What are they? You know, do I just throw this in even if it's, you know, you just don't want to throw an exercise in that they're not ready for. And that they'll still get a training effect from a lesser exercise, for lack of a better term. They'll still get the training effect that they're after. Yeah. You don't need to go straight to the hardest thing, because then once they do the hardest thing, where do you go from there? Give them easier things? That doesn't work. So it's like nutrition. You don't want to go straight, you know, to no calories if you're going for fat loss, because if that doesn't work, then you're buggered.
No.
Keep the progression, and they won't even know. They won't know what you're doing. But you'll know that you've got this progression in place. Yeah.
And you know, you were saying earlier on about you kind of tend to use a lot of like full body approach work. Is that generally kind of, instead of having your leg day, your arm day, and your shoulders and chest, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't train like that even myself. I don't train like that even myself.
Right, fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't actually, and I use the whole body approach, but it does seem that sometimes, particularly now, I've got more clients, more female clients that have got the weight loss goal.
Yep.
And they've done really, really well, but yet, as soon as they get and hit that target, they then want to start bulking up, and so they want to start getting ripped. And that's my thing at the moment, which is where I'm trying to get a little bit more experience on, really, because, you know, I'm looking at, do I need to change from what I'm doing, the full body approach, to, you know, more of a leg and a chest day and an arm day, etc., to get the desired results.
Yeah, and it comes back to that client compliance.
Yeah.
So, because if you're going to do body part days, you've got to do 5 or 6 days. Per week.
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah, no, and that's fine. I mean, my women, I say to them, look, you know, I am not the girl for you. If you want to go training 5 days a week, and most of them don't, they haven't got the time element, and I do say that they are very limited if they're only going to do 1 to 2 days a week with me. I can't work miracles, so.
Exactly, yeah. So that's where you prioritise what you cover.
Yeah.
And that's where the full body stuff comes in, because you don't just want to say, oh, I want to do 5 arm exercises with someone, and that's all I want to do with them. You're going to want to do the squat. You're going to want to do the deadlift.
Boring, absolutely, yeah.
So you're going to have to do the full body.
Fine, yeah, no, that's fine. And so what I suppose it also gives me that then encouragement to say, actually, you know, Kate, you're doing exactly what you should be doing, and that's fine. I think sometimes you doubt yourself if, you know, you look at kind of other Facebook groups, or you look at this and you look at this promotion on, you know, ripping the body and all these 28-day body transformation things, and, you know, you then doubt yourself, whereas actually now I shouldn't, because what I'm doing is absolutely right for the clients that I've got. Well, so I feel quite more confident now, actually. That's quite good choice.
Well, that's all you've got to worry about. Whoever's paying you the money, hopefully they keep doing it.
Yeah, well, that's right, yeah. I'm not doing a bad job so far, just me, but that's fine.
No, that's it, yeah. Don't get caught up in other people's stuff. They're probably not as well off as they make it they are.
Well, that's right. No, you're absolutely fine. No, that's all right. Well, thanks, Troy. It's been really good and quite a learning curve, actually. I was a bit taken aback when you went, oh my goodness, I'm going to try and get hold of Kate. I was a bit frightened, but I feel better now.
I couldn't work out that mute thing. It wasn't working for me. That's all right. All right. So, is there any more questions? Anyone want to put a hand up? Let me have a look. Okay, I'm going through a list. Okay, if there's no more questions, all right, just lastly, okay, so the product that I've made up is pretty much what I've done, what my trainers go through when they come through with the 8 models that I mentioned before. So let's give a quick little look here. So it's the perfect programming for personal trainers. There's assessing the client in there. There's a quick little assessment you can do there, a little movement assessment. What I do with new clients, that goes from right from the start, what I do with them, sets and reps, how my progressions look, how I break things up into 2 sessions. If it's 2 sessions, I've got them a week, more so than 1. There's my movement patterns that I have. Okay, so if it's 1 day, 2 days, if it's 3 days, what I'll train on those 3 days. Compensation patterns, there's a whole heap of tables there. I've got an even bigger table than that, but I cut that down, but I can send that out if people would like it. The exercise progressions for each movement pattern, so there's core, there's a heap of them, all with videos, single leg, rowing exercises, push-up, bench press exercises, deadlift, all that type of stuff, squats. That's all the movement patterns there. Training around injuries, what to do if someone's got a sore knee, if it's causing, what you should avoid, what you can do to sort of help it, what you can still do to get a training effect. Exercise list is all there. That's a manual there, and I might even add to that in the future and just send it out to people that purchase a manual just as a little add-on. So if you're interested in that, that will be going for $57 for the next few days for people who done this thing. I haven't released it as yet. If you're interested, you can pay through PayPal, $57 to lang_troy@hotmail.com. LANGE_Troy, TROY@hotmail.com. Once notification comes through, then I can just send that out to you from there. If you've got any other questions on the manual, then you can just get me through the Facebook post where you signed up for the webinar. Any final questions or anything that people would want to know, just on something else in regards to training? Just do your little hand thing. If not, we've done all right here. I've worked a bit better than I thought it would. I worked all this stuff out, so thank you, Nathan, for that. Thank you for attending. I might do a few more of these in the future now that I know how to do them. If you've got any questions on anything programming, put them up in the PTU Facebook page. There's heaps of trainers there. There's trainers there probably better than me. Maybe not. But you're going to get a mix of answers, which is what you want. You just want to hear. If you get more answers to the same question, you can start to sort of, how is this answer better than this one? You can sort of mold your training around different answers, and you can come to your own conclusion. So definitely keep posting your questions up there. That'd be fine. Just tag me into that if you want me to answer one. That's fine. If not, everyone have a good day or a good night, depending where you are.